Hey, wonderful people! Welcome back to Silver Coin Podcast. How is everybody doing? I know, it's been a long time since we last recorded, more than 2 months, right? I think this is the first episode of the new year, of the 2022.
Yeah, 2021. No, 2022. I keep mistaking the years. Hi everyone, we are back. To anyone listening, right?
Yeah,
And Gal, what are we going to talk about today? We said that we are going to definitely make sure that these episodes from now on are at least 20 minutes, something like that. 20 minute-ish, something like that, right?
yeah, we always say that, but in the end we...
No. Now we're gonna do it.
we are
Watch
gonna
us.
try our best. Either way, I also have a new microphone, as you can see, so probably the audio is not going to be as broken as shit as it was. For anyone that's listened previously knows what I'm talking about. But that being said, today's topic actually is battles. Basically one of the most controversial, I guess, like aspects of our game, because we had a lot of buzz, a lot of people asking us why we have dice rolling. We'll talk about more in the podcast, but basically why we have it, that other mechanics would be better, for example. So we are here basically to elaborate why we have it, all of the things we've done in the past and tested, because it's not something we decided on the first go, right? So that being said, would you mind telling the people what kind of battle system we are currently using, Clan?
Yeah. So for the battles, we are using action selection. No, I'm joking. We are using the dice checking method. And like you said, people when they hear nowadays, or a lot of things, when they hear the word dice checking, dice rolling, some people even, God forbid, dice. They kind of step away. They even feel like, okay, this is going in the luck-based direction. And you know what? Partially they're right, partially, but we will dive into this. We will explain today why, how, and so on. This was not like just some random choice and decision making when we did that. We did it in the development process. In fact, today we will talk about how at the beginning of the development process we didn't have dice chucking. No, we switched to dice chucking because it was more suited and we think it worked better. And we will also talk about how the combat system is a thing in development constantly, and may even see some changes in the future, but more into that later on, right after commercials. No, I'm joking. We don't have sponsors yet. But basically, let's go one by one. Gal, do you remember what the first mechanic was for the battle system? Way back, like 10 years back. We are talking now. So yes, this game, in a sense, was in development from 10 years ago. We picked up the old version, and 3 years plus ago, we started really working on it daily. But yeah, this game is kind of 10 years in the development, in a sense. So, what did we use, Gal, back then?
Dice, didn't we? We used dice.
Yes, correct. And then it shifted way later, right?
Yeah, 4 years ago.
Yeah, exactly, something like that, 4 years ago. When we basically toyed with the idea of let's do something more extreme and so on about the project, we started also thinking about the battle system and what we can do with it. Specifically, when I say we, it was mostly me, but I just say we, so all feel included in this process, and that we kind of can say that we have democracy even in designing, but we do not. But anyway, so what did we started with the initial idea? Was it still let's stay with the dice chucking, or did we hop into something else?
No, it was actually a really interesting idea back then, and I thought it was really cool and really amazing. But then, after we basically contemplated and tried it, we saw that it didn't really work. And this actually mechanic was called deck building, which is a lot of you are familiar with it, and a lot of you actually prefer this kind of battles. For example, Tainted Grail has this type of mechanics. A lot of different games use that. Even The Witcher Old World, I think, use that type of mechanic, and it works. It's really good. It's great actually. You decide what you want to have in your deck. You decide what you want to fight with, and you strategize yourself. You're not dependent on luck, except for the cards you actually draw in your hand, but then again you also have 5 or whatever that number is, right? But we actually had a similar idea behind it. Basically, we thought that each monster is going to have its separate deck, which is going to make this monster unique, because we already had that in mind, right? Now we have that in certain stance, right? So that each monster is unique, has its is stronger, weaker in certain environment. Back then, this would also be done in terms of what kind of deck that monster would have had, right? And also the players, the characters themselves, would build their deck throughout the whole game, right? They would go to the tavern, they would buy cards, they would put them in their deck. They would even these cards would even help them in the travels, in the all of the different aspects of the game, not just the battle themselves. And it was, I think, it was even some interesting mechanic back then, that you have this hearing or eyesight specialty of the character. So we wanted to go like really in depth, so if a person would like hear better or something like that, basically
it was not about hear better, it was more about which learning type you
okay
are.
Yeah, I guess.
Are you
Yeah.
the person that learns by listening, the person that learns by doing stuff, by seeing stuff, and so on? So while you were building your character, you would kind of be matching those things, and that would influence how you would interact with the world and how you would deck build also, because you would learn things differently. Oh, sounds amazing, right? Look, listen, we still have the design that was done way back, and we can use it for some other things in the future, maybe even with this project, if the story goes on into the future, right? For other things, but we will explain to you why those things did not work as intended, and why it's not a clear cut and it's not black and white, why certain things work in design and certain things do not work. In the design process, there is always, or mostly, at least if you're thinking about things ahead and properly, a trade-off. There is always a trade-off. When you do something, it has its positive effects and good stuff, and it has its negative effects, and it's affecting different areas of the game. So I will explain. Let us start with the process of deck building and having that mechanic. First of all, it is way more convoluted and fiddly in a sense of design, and also in terms of gameplay and learning the game and so on. Our game is pretty big as it is. It is quite big of a game. Like, there is a bunch of things happening, but we also want to make it an experience that you can learn as you play the game. But still, the game is big, a lot of things are happening, and this would just pile on to that. Not that this was the main reason why we didn't go with it, but this is like one of the reasons. The second thing, you have to know that we are planning to have 30 plus monsters and stuff like that in the game. If each monster would be having its own deck, or even if some parts of those decks would be combined in some, amazing way or whatever, we are talking about a massive amount of cards. Like, even if you would have like a few cards per monster, we would be talking about hundreds of cards just for that, and then for the character and so on top of all the cards that we have in the game. We are playing hundreds of cards anyway, so that would increase the cost of the game, that would increase the weight of the game, that would increase the shipping of the game, that would increase the number of components, the size of the box. You go down that rabbit hole really fast, okay? And maybe in the future we go in that direction, but for now not. But the most important aspect, probably one of the most important aspects of that, is the time, the time aspect of it. So when you're deck building, and you said Tainted Grail has a very unique, actually, battle mechanic.
Yeah.
Unique, like most of the things in board games you see in other games also, right? But Tainted Grail has something that is not often seen in board games, and that's basically matching of symbols with the cards, and basically then triggering the combos and so on and so on and so on. Very interesting, but very time consuming. Okay? Those of you who have played Tainted Grail know what I'm talking about, especially if you're playing with 3-4 people and so on, and our game goes from 1 to 5 players. Never forget that, okay? So, as I'm doing my awesome deck building, that often means decision making, and decision making is good. I really like it. That's good. But also in times of battle, not just in times of normal rounds and stuff like that, there is also decision making connected with the deck building and so on, at least to some extent. It also depends on how you do it and so on. But we were playing with different options, and what we found out is battles take too long. Downtime is too big. And we are not talking about drastic amount of time, and I will explain. So let's say, for an example, that a regular battle will last for 1 to 2 minutes, okay? This is just an example, okay? And now let's say that the deck building increases that amount to 3 or 4 minutes. 3 or 4 minutes, what's the big deal? Eh? Okay, I will explain what the big deal is about. Let's say, okay, it increased the time for 2 minutes on average. Okay, cool. 2 minutes when you're battling. And you are battling, let's say, 6-7 monsters per game. Can be 10 if you're, I don't know, going that route. Depends for our game, right? And for the scenario or for competitive mode, depending on what you're doing. But let's say for the sake of it, 7, okay? You battle 7 monsters. 7 monsters times 2 minutes, and we were being really generous. Trust me, we are being generous. That's almost 15 additional minutes per player. 4 players, 1 hour. And we are being very generous. Trust me, this is a rabbit hole. This goes down to 2 hours, 3 hours, and some people are fine with that. Some people are like, what's the problem? But some people are like, the downtime in this game. The downtime as I'm fighting. So that's also a negative aspect of that. While deck building, in its essence, the first thought was amazing. I worked my ass on that aspect. Like I said, I had this system that went ways and beyond the normal deck building stuff, and hopefully we will use it someday for some interesting things that we have planned for the future, maybe, right? But in terms of that, what the game is about and so on, in this game, let me be very clear, it is not about the battles. Yes, battles do play an important role in this game. Fighting monster does play an important role. But preparing for the monster fight, optimizing your journey, or maybe solving the puzzle quest, whatever of the scenario, those are extremely important parts of this game. Okay? So, that was the reason, one of the reasons why dice chucking rule works. Also probably the reason why dice chucking probably works in bigger games like Twilight Imperium, for example. You ever wondered why Twilight Imperium uses dice chucking? Bad design choice? I don't know, people like dice? Maybe, yeah, maybe all of those combined, but I would argue that there is an important aspect of it also time-wise. Twilight Imperium is quite a big game, okay? It's, in terms of length, it is bigger than ours. Well, depending on how many people play and how well they are versed with the game, of course, but that's kind of the sense. So dice chucking presents not only faster option, but also offers some interesting design choices and options. And one of the things that I like about dice chucking, and I'm not just a dice chucking fan, I really like deck building and so on, but one of the things that I like about the dice, and some people hate, is that luck aspect. Or let's say, pushing for your luck, making or trying to basically have a chance in a fight, even if all hope seems lost.
Yeah, the punch of
That
chance.
small glimpse, yeah, that small glimpse of a chance, kind of is what people kind of like. They don't want to go into a battle or be in the midst of the battle and saying, okay, I'm gone, I'm 100% gone. That small glimpse of chance, that's always good. But of course, because we are in modern gaming and so on, you have to bring in the mitigation of the luck. Of course you do. And there are going to be a ton of those. So re-rolling with experience, making sure to activate certain items and skills and so on that you have at your tableau, using your abilities that you have, using magic, using different things, and of course preparing in advance to decrease the luck factor. You can prepare the hell out of your for your mission before you go in it, and you're almost 100% that you'll make it. But you know what? That 5% or so that may happen in some strange reality world or whatever, it still keeps you a bit suspenseful about the battle. So it's not like I'm just rolling, whatever. No, it's still. So I also like that small chance of things going wrong. Of course, it must mean that you are not then screwed for the rest of the game, or do you really feel bad? But of course, people are going to feel bad when they roll bad, and they're going to feel good when they roll good. That's just the way people work. But you know what? People are also going to be anxious about that roll before the dice leave their hands. That's my side of things, my experience, our playtesting experience, and so on. And we will come back to other options and things that we are looking for in the future, but this is the general premises of it. How have I done my job, Gal?
You've basically covered everything regarding the dice rolling itself, right? Like the designer's point of view, especially because a lot of people don't think about a lot of these things that have been said, right? And as you said, for example, the unpredictability and stuff, leaving the time behind. Although time is probably one of the biggest reasons, if not the biggest reason why we decided for dice rolling. But just with unpredictability, with the puncher's chance or whatever you called it, right? I think it's a really cool thing in our game as well, right? Because there is a lot of things to consider when you're playing our game. And the preparation, as you said, it plays a big part in our game, in this sense, because battles are not everything. Basically, preparation is more than the battle itself, and the preparation itself will mitigate that luck, probably something we will talk about a bit in the future, like in the next couple minutes, basically how we try to mitigate that luck and how we try that people don't feel bad about that, but bad about being unlucky or something like that, right? But this unpredictability, this everything makes the game fun as well, and also really replayable, because each time you will fight the same monster basically under the same circumstances, the battle will not unfold the same way, right? Because sometimes you may roll 8s, sometimes you may roll 5s, and you don't know about that. So because you don't know how you're going to roll, that's why you're uncertain, and because you're uncertain, you have two options. Either you risk it and you try to have bigger profits, bigger basically you spare more coin, or you have bigger chance of winning, or you really prepare or something like that to not have that and perhaps have less coins. But then again, you have the other option: if you risk it, you may lose it all, or you may lose more than other people and stuff like that. And that's always something that keeps this game suspenseful, I guess, in terms of way, because victory points, at least in competitive mode, are coins, and since they're hidden information, none of the other people normally don't know how much you have, because you're spending them along your way and stuff like that. And because at the end of the journey, at the end of the game, some players believe they're winning, some players feel like they're losing. Maybe they're not, but they feel like they're losing, and the ones that feel like they're losing will try to take that chance. They will try to, okay, whatever, I'll try to take a chance, I will not prepare as much, and I will go and I'll try to defeat a really difficult monster under unfavorable circumstances, I guess. And maybe they succeed, maybe they don't, they never know until the end, right? But if they succeed, they're perhaps lucky. or perhaps whatever, and at the end of the game they see, okay, I really needed that push of luck to win that game, or perhaps they saw, okay, I didn't need to do that, maybe I would have won either way. And the other people that perhaps are like on the winning side, or they feel like they're winning, they would just like, okay, you know what, I will play it safe. I feel like I have enough lead to other players that I will just like try to prepare a bit, like 1 or 2 like months more or rounds more, or I will spend more resources for this battle, and perhaps at the end of the game they will see like, damn it, if I only didn't buy that potion I would have won this game. But they didn't know that at the end, right? And that's basically the puncher's chance. That's basically the unpredictability I was talking about. Then of course the time aspect plays a big role and all of that. That being said, if we talk about the mitigation, we are working so much, because as you said, still being unlucky or still being lucky makes you feel good or bad. And our job as developers, your job as a designer in this case, is to like try to make this mitigation of that feeling. Not that people that roll good wouldn't feel better or whatever than others, but basically that the people who perhaps lose the battle because they rolled 5s instead of 7s or whatever, and it may happen, maybe it's a 1 in a million chance, maybe it's a 1 in a 10 million chance that you will roll like 7 4s in a row or 8 4s in a row. I don't know permutations on the top of my head, but basically it's a chance, right? But if that happens, it's our job that first of all, if that happens, you still feel responsible to a certain extent, that you feel like, I should have done something about it. I knew this could have happened. Perhaps it was 1 in a million chance, but you don't feel like it's the game screwing you down, that it's also your decisions. That's one of the important things, right? Because in this game you can defeat every monster like 100% if you prepare enough, if you're well equipped and stuff like that. But most of the time you're not perfectly equipped, because time is of the essence and resources are of the essence, are limited and stuff like that. So all of that considered, we try to mitigate that luck effect to the most of our abilities. But we also try to keep in consideration that when you mitigate that, you're spending time, you're spending resources, you're spending something else. So players that feel like, okay, I want to be really certain that I will defeat this monster, will normally spend more time or more resources than other players that normally don't do that, or that want to take the chance. Want to elaborate any more on that, perhaps? And perhaps even tell people what we are working on. For example, what even now we are trying to change, we're trying to improve, because even now there are a lot of people that are still dissatisfied with dice chucking in general, and want to have this feeling that they can do everything in order to prevent bad rolls and stuff.
Just a quick one, so we don't drag these episodes also. But it's actually an illusion of what sometimes people think about. Depending on a game, our game, let me repeat again, the focus is not on the battle. If the focus was on the battle, then we would go into that building, we would reduce the time you're doing other stuff and so on, and make it more about the battles themselves. But for us, it's more about the journey and how you do that journey. And in that sense, people don't lose the game, at least in vast majority, in battles. People don't win or lose this game in battles mostly. Battles matter, preparation for battles matter, but in how you plan for those things, how you combine and do actions on your turns, that's how you win a game of Silver Coin Age of Monster Hunters. By planning ahead, by trying to combine as many moves as possible into this optimal journey, into optimal, I don't know, in this case, some for scenarios, in this optimal way of dealing with a scenario, and so on and so on. But most of the time, it's not about you doing better in battles than someone else. Okay? So making that clear. And about how we are mitigating and what we are doing and so on. Forget about the experience that you can use about rerolling. Forget about the the different items and things that you can have to help you on the way, maybe even your character abilities that can help you in battle and so on. So mostly you're kind of juggling with how many resources do I spend for preparation, how many time do I spend for preparation for this battle, so that I'm prepared and I know things that I need to know and I have the things that I need to have in case something goes bad, or just in case, so I have it easier in the battle. That's the main thing. The additional thing that we are thinking about, two things that I'm thinking about. One of the things that is almost set in stone by now is that the kingdom cards that we are going to be picking up and so on and so on will serve as an additional plus to the dice results and so on. So they will help you if you have the right kingdom cards, again planning and so on and so on. But again, you will be exchanging something. So okay, I spend this kingdom card so I basically have a better roll, but I lost some resources by doing that, but it was okay because I needed that and that was my decision to do it. And then the second thing is also about maybe changing the way monsters get damaged. And this is something that we will probably see later on, because there are a lot of things and we do still have time, even with development and so on. We will take all the bloody time that we need to make this game as good as possible, even after the successful Kickstarter and so on. The main principles, the core principles and so on will remain the same, but we will be testing and trying out things and looking for the best possible options that we have. And one of that is that what I'm talking about. But we have other priorities and other things that we are dealing with right now. But later on we can go and play with that. I want to do it, and we will see where we end up. And with that said, like, do you think maybe we finish off this episode with just saying maybe about different ways to go about the battle, character-wise, planning-wise, and so on? Maybe you can talk shortly about that also.
Yeah, and I'll try to really be short because we are already nearing that 30-minute mark. But basically, there is tons of ways of experiencing battle here, and also there are like different types of, depending on which character you play, there's also like different strategies, different kinds of battles. If you play Shapeshifter, you're going to have a totally different experience because you wouldn't rely on potions, which normally boost up your strength and basically lower the strength of monsters, so to make the battles easier in that terms of sense, right? In Shapeshifter, you want to basically plan and strategize depending on which monsters you have, and you want to have the perfect circumstances for you and not so perfect for the other monsters you're fighting. And you have like this other strategy where you can basically strategize and stuff. Berserker, it's not completed character, but we basically rely on being as damaged as possible to be as most efficient, I guess, in this type of sense. And so on and so on. Won't go into too much detail, but basically there's tons of things you can do during the battle and most of the time before the battle itself. To basically decide how you want to go about it. Basically, the main things is the preparation about the monsters themselves. As we said, monsters gets weaker, stronger during the certain environments. Maybe it's that time of the day, maybe it's season, maybe it's weather, maybe it's kingdom or whatever it is. But you know in advance what it is, of course, if you reveal the monster, which is obviously one of the important aspects of it. And then you basically prepare to fight that monster to the best of your ability. And then you have different stuff like equipment cards, which are really important. And together with equipment cards, there is of course the color dice, which trigger those effects. So this is one of the biggest parts in the end game, especially. And also potions, as we mentioned, and now that Lan even mentioned the kingdom cards and stuff like that. So you have tons of different ways of how you can go about battle, how you can mitigate all of those stuff. You can even gather herbs that will create potions that you won't need to spend money for it. You have experience to re-roll the dice. And with now, I think experience will even be possible to pay 2 experience to basically like lower the strength of the monster even further or something like that. But basically like tons of different ways. And,
yeah, so to put it in chunks, and then we finish up and wrap this episode. So different characters will go a bit differently about how they battle. Some will be more straightforward because their abilities are less connected with battling and stuff like that, right? But then others, like Shapeshifter, she will turn into monsters she defeats and then use that as her strength to try to fight other monsters and so on. And then you have characters that we hope we will unlock with Kickstarter stretch goals that we want to bring to life. For example, Necromancer, he plays a totally different way of battling, where he uses basically meat shields or his minions to basically soak in the damage and stuff like that. And the Berserker you have mentioned, he is basically using his rage, which is not the typical rage that you see in fantasy and so on.
It's actually a she.
Yeah, she, sorry, yeah, there are different berserkers, but the character is going to be she. Okay, yeah, sorry, she, yeah. She uses her rage basically to unlock certain different options for when battling and stuff like that. And then you have the herbalist basically using the sweet different potions that other characters cannot, even in battles and stuff like that. And then, like you said, with the event cards, not event cards, the improvement cards, you can go in this game for more improvement cards about improving the speed of journeying through the map. You can use them for other things, or you can use the improvement cards that help you in battle. That's your decision on how you go about it, and also depending on how they come out and what options they are given to you to choose from and so on. And then the magic you choose, certain type of magic is more battle oriented. I'm speaking specifically about fire magic and so on, which directly affects the damages and stuff like that. Spirit magic is a different kind of way that it also helps with battle and so on. But then you have air magic, which kind of is more focused on your journey and so on, but can be used also in battle to help you with some things. So even those things will play in how you will approach the battle itself. And with that, I will drop it for now. We can talk about battles some other time, but I think that we gave people, at least those really paying attention to what's happening, a good idea of why we have the battle system we do, what we are planning with it, and what are the options involved in the battle system and stuff like that.
Yeah, basically the last thing I'd like to mention is that if anyone has a question regarding battles or has an idea of how he would utilize it better or something like that, we also have ongoing playtests. So anyone is more than willing to try it out, to take a look and take a try themselves and see perhaps for them the battle does not work. Do you have a better suggestion? Please share it, because we get a lot of feedback. And with the feedback itself, we can try to improve this game. So if a lot of you will feel like that there is a better alternative, we are more than willing to try. And as Lance said, we have more than enough time to test it out and to basically have the best possible version of this game. That's basically it, right?
That's basically it. You're free to go to your normal lives outside of listening to this podcast. We will also try to upload the future and the previous episodes of podcast on Spotify for those that would like to do it like that, listening while driving or whatever, or focus on the road. Anyway, and with that said, that's it. See you next time in the next episode. And
sooner than now. It will be in this month probably.
And we are improving. We are not a 20-minute mark, but we are improving. So
next time perhaps.
Next time.
Okay, bye. Cheers.
Bye.